Thank you. Yes, Jason Paul's my name, Managing Director for Apt Innovations. I can start off by saying that it happened on one cold, frosty November night, but I don't think I could keep up that story. It sounds like something out of Harry Potter. But what I just wanted to do, that's actually true and how it did start, but what I wanted to do was just start and tell you a little bit about ourselves and what brought us to creating what has now become the name Floe, and where it has taken us to over the past couple of years. So as I say, before I started doing what I'm doing now with Floe, I started off as a corporate trainer, quite like just what Rory's just been saying. Boutique operation, doing training in IT and management training. Quite a lot of that training was actually videoed and then was sold to various companies. And that gave us our first our first way into working with video, which I'll discuss with you later on. What I also did in my spare time, I renovated over 8 houses. And as I say, that gave me an idea, you know, in regards to, you know, plumbing and electrics and various construction and so on, and basically how things are made up. Some of which we've done a nice job. And what I would like you to do is actually remember this picture because it is quite important for later on. Just to give you an idea of our background, I live in Stormont, Belfast, with my wife, Pamela, and two girls, Emily and Annabelle. My days off, when I'm not doing what I'm doing, are generally spent at things like princess parties, going to trips to the park, and of course trying to find an ice cream that's the size of your head. In 2008, my wife and I bought a static caravan, and it down in Fermanagh. And we had it for 6 months. We got it in April and whatever that ended up being. But at that particular time, we wanted to keep it going through into the winter. But generally speaking, you would usually drain it down, as it's known, around about that time, around about Halloween. We wanted to keep it going just for another few weeks. It was new, we were excited and all that sort of stuff. But sadly, we came down, as I said, on a November evening, arrived down, ice on the decking, and I could hear a hissing. Thought it was gas, came inside, and as you can see on from here where the door is, this would be the living room. From this point backwards where all of the bedrooms are, around about here is the boiler room. It's just a typical boiler for a 2-up, 2-down type of house. There was a copper pipe inside had ruptured in a frost, thawed out again, and the water was bouncing off the roof. My wife cried. Understandably. Brand new caravan, 6 months old, and absolutely flooded up until the kitchen point here where it stopped. But it was actually, the water was draining out of the back of the caravan, out of the vents. She wasn't aware of the big lad standing beside her who was starting to well up, because I knew that I had to actually climb onto this decking halfway through the caravan and actually turn the water off. The water was still on, which caused most of the damage. As I say, there was a process in place, a traditional process, which had been going on for years, and I certainly did not invent the idea of using compressed air to push water out of water pipes. And that's basically where the problem is here. You can empty tanks if you have them, you can empty various components, but that water that's in those pipes, if they're copper, will burst just like that. Ice is an incredible, powerful force. But also, as I say, there are other, hang on, we've got technical issues here, sorry. The competition out there, it was an antiquated method, and generally it involved you having one of these or paying someone to do it for you, usually around about 60 to 100 pounds. Now that meant that your property was actually, from Halloween, couldn't be used through to about March, and it meant that they would create a seal between the airline with a water tap, open the tap and try and push the water back down through the system in reverse, what we would call the wrong way, and push that water out of the bottom of the caravan. And I call it antiquated because as the years have progressed, technology has got more sophisticated inside these sorts of things. I mean, they're just like little apartments. But things like showers, for example, have non-return valves in them to stop this back siphoning, this sucking up of water. And what would happen there is that they couldn't blow the water back down through the shower. So what did they do? They dismantled it and basically set the shower block. And we've seen several of these with a big split along the bottom because there was water trapped in them. So they dismantle it, set it on the floor, and that's you. But that's the end of it, 6 months of the year. Now, if your particular caravan site or development or whatever it is allows you to use it through the winter, that's 6 months that you could be getting the benefit. And if you consider you're paying £2,000 a year, well, you know, obviously you would like to. And it's lovely to get down. The loch is frozen. You know, it's great for walks through the forest and so on. We would take the odd weekend, maybe Christmas week or something before Christmas, you know, to go down. It's lovely. So I wanted to do this. There was two things that I wanted to do, and that was I wanted to drain it myself and not pay them money to drain it every time. But moreover, I wanted to be able to use the property through the winter months. Now, what we did, instead of this blowing water down in reverse, the first thing I thought of was, well, how do we actually follow the flow of the water, hence the name. Follow the flow of the water, you know, from an outside central point through to those taps. So basically drain each tap. So the water is coming out of the tap, what we would call the right way. So the first thing that I created with this, it's very pretty, as you can see. We used it, basically what we have here is a tap connector at one end and a typical car valve at the other end. Now, it was just stripped off with a Stanley knife with tape put around it and shoved up through the pipe. The idea was that you connect it to an outside tap, and then using something as simple that most or a lot of people would have is an inexpensive little compressor. You could use a foot pump, it would just take a while, but a little compressor that you would use to blow up the tires of your car. And then instead of what we had before, which was using this type of compressor here, this has a tank on here. A little compressor will not have that. This will compress air, but it has volume. If you use a little compressor, it certainly will compress the air, but it doesn't have volume. But if you actually use the caravan itself, once you drain a pipe, and the more pipes that you drain from a single tap and so on, and you move around the caravan, you create more space to get that air in. So the better the process, because you're using the caravan or the property as the volume side to it. I know it sounds technical, but basically the more space that you have, the more air you can get in. When you release a tap, the more air will push that water out and dry the pipes. Okay, so this was to be the finished result, and we got there by the very, very good help of the likes of Invest NI, who put us through various programs. One of which was the build program, which was to put us through our first patent. And what we did was, instead of selling this one here, which was to become our finished result, we had some that weren't just as tasteless as the ones before, and we were able to sell those around. And I guess just to follow up on Rory and Anita's earlier on, test the market. First of all, if you're getting into this type of activity, we made up just samples in little bags and sold them off. Tried to make them as pretty as we could, and we charged for them. But at the end of the day, it gave us feedback and took us in new areas. So again, you'll hear me talk about this quite a bit. Listen to what people are saying. Okay, so this was to become the final product. Moving on from that, there's only a limited amount of static caravans out there, and what we realised was, by speaking with the likes of the National Caravan Council, they said, do you have products that would, or a product that would suit touring caravans, motorhomes and so on. What we found, we had to create new kits to obviously suit those particular markets, because the connections are different, and you'll see how they're connected in a second. But it allows people to be able to use the device on such things as houses, holiday homes, and as I say, statics and touring caravans and motorhomes, and that's right across the whole of Europe and Scandinavia, and of course America and Canada. So, okay, so the idea was, to prevent burst pipes, and this was the initial idea for winter protection. And as you can see here on a particular motorhome, this is a device about this size. It's a water heater, and as you can see, the damage that can actually happen through ice. It's quite powerful. But what it means is that you can, of course, use your property through winter, through those winter months, and save on damage. But we did listen. We did listen to what customers were telling us, and they were coming back and saying, particularly touring caravans, motorhomes, RVs, that type of thing, they were saying, listen, winter's bad, Floe is good, we understand, it saves the components and so on. However, have you seen the water that is removed? And in a typical vehicle, you'll remove about 1 to 1.5 litres of water. The people over the years have complained about we drank the water for the first 3 months, then it started to taste a little bit off in some way or another. They thought it tasted like plastic, like the plastic water system. In actual fact, the water inside had died, and in some low-lying levels, there was, some bits to be found. Now, it might be quite difficult for you to see, but you can see that the water is cloudy. If you were close enough here, you would see that it's actually full of bits, which is what is creating the bad taste. Now, we have just actually recently been talking with Queen's University, because as much as we know that this is creating a bad taste, it smells bad, it looks bad, in actual fact, Queen's are going to carry out a study, which is again through another programme, through an innovation voucher, to look into what is in the water, because we don't know. It could be sea monsters. We don't know. But what we do know is that when water does go stale, it can create the likes of Legionnaire's disease, or E. coli, and so on. But so what? What does that mean to us? Well, it means that instead of, at the moment, us being absolutely flogged to death because people, are buying this because traditionally it's a winterizing tool. It's something that's seasonal. What this will do is we're telling people, listen, use this after every trip. Blow out your water. Don't sterilize at the start and the end of the year. Don't filter it and use various types of chemicals on it. It's dead water. It's 1.5 litres of water. By the time you flush maybe 40 litres of water through it, you've wasted all of that. So you're being a little more green, but the point is, get rid of it and use it after every trip. So for a business, and to continue to be sustainable as a business, we needed to be able to take that step forward to have a tool that could be used all year round. Okay, so how does it work? Basically, if I come to here, you will see a typical water system. Water comes in from the outside. You'll see you've got blue pipes leading to all of your taps, washing machines, toilets, and so on and so forth. You'll see also that the blue line goes on to, in a closed system this is, not using water tanks, goes through a boiler, which then travels onto the hot taps. As long as you get access here to the cold line somewhere, what you can do is you can push in pressure to a certain PSI or bar. Now, 15 PSI would be for the likes of touring caravans and motorhomes. 30 PSI would be for homes and the likes of static caravans. But when you compress and push in that air, it acts like a coiled spring. When you release a tap somewhere inside, what happens is that the water will actually will be pushed out. The air wants to decompress, and it can't do that until the water gets shot out in front of it. So basically what you would do is you would turn off your water first of all, then connect Floe to an outside tap, say for a particular house or caravan, or a suitable adapter for RVs and so on. And we have a number of kits. And again, that allowed us, because of these different areas, these different markets, and this is still growing, it has brought us up to now 6 kits as opposed to just the one device. But they all have the same thing in common. They all have Floe here, and you'll see them on the table outside. Then what you would do is the other end, connect up a compressor, as I said before, and what you would do, build up that air pressure and release the first tap, and that water will be evacuated out of that line. You will close the tap again, build up the pressure, rinse and repeat. Just start opening up the valves, or toilets, for example, are dead easy. Lift the cistern off, push the ball cock down, and the water will be shot into the cistern. Very, very straightforward to use. As you can see here, the benefits are it's a single point of access. You're not having to go around a property with this big air compressor. It's more efficient. Engineers themselves are buying it. We don't particularly want them to buy it because they're still charging money for it. We want the end user to buy it because it's so straightforward to use. It's yours for keeps, no yearly drain down costs, and of course no dismantling of your system. So, as I say, there are multiple uses and multiple kits, and as you can see here just an example of some of the connections. An outside tap, say, this would be the outside of a caravan. As you can see, this is where normally the wee barrel of water would sit and draws into the water system. And indeed, if you do have an onboard tank, it is fitted inside with these various components. Shut off the tank with this particular component, and then this gives us access to the water. But the result is always the same. The water is always pushing from the source, or as close to the source of the water as possible, and pushing forward to the taps. So, I mean, you really got to think about your marketing here. If you have got a product, you need to think of other areas that you could adapt your particular product to. And indeed other products that you can create. And that's the one thing that through these various, organizations that help businesses start up, they're a little bit cagey on one product. So if you could take away anything from today, it's I've got that one product in my mind, but what can I answer that question with? What's next? What's the next product to come along? Okay, so we worked with the guys that are about to have a chat with you, Learning Solutions in San Diego, and we were introduced to them by Colin Graham from I&I. Incidentally, Colin is very much a go-to type person, very, very clued in on the workings of Invest NI. So, it's certainly a good contact to have. And he's actually at the stand outside, so you could have a chat with him. But we worked with Learning Solutions and we were introduced to them. The first thing we had to do was say, well, okay, we have the hose connector, we can buy that. We have a valve, we can buy that. The idea is to keep your product as simple as possible, keep it as few parts as possible. So we needed to create some sort of a join between those two parts, because that's basically what it is. It's a conduit between air into water. And that's basically it. So the main part that we worked with the guys was this here. So, which was to create this sort of central body that would hold a valve in such a way that would create a seal, but we didn't have to modify any of the off-the-shelf parts. And that's another thing. If there's an off-the-shelf part there that can be used and it's cheap enough, use it. Just try and cobble together your own thing to marry the two up together. So we started on, obviously, the concept prototype start of the process. And I'm just going to rattle through these quite quickly, actually, because I know we're running very much out of time. We had this part, we had located this part in China that we could use. In actual fact, it turned out that it was B&Q's supplier as well. The first thing we had to do was establish what type of material we're going to use, because it's not a garden hose anymore. It's going to be made of hard plastic, so we chose Delrin. We could make the seal, but also, the idea was to get the right size and choose the right material. Next, we had to get a valve in there and create a seal, and we ended up using this here, which again, it's concept. It's not going to be pretty, but it gets you on to the next stage. And as you can see, little Allen screw keys holding the parts together. So that was the two ends of it. So as you can see, this was the concept prototype. We have our connection here and obviously through to the valve. You're not going to sell it, but at the end of the day, it has proved the concept, and we took it and tested it and it worked fine. In fact, Murray, if I'm not wrong, it shot past your wife's car whenever you exceeded the pressure on it. So the fail-safe worked okay. Okay. This is what we come up with. It goes to the CAD, we get into the design prototype side of things. And this one, and the guys will tell you, I just didn't like the fact that it had the two straight sides. What I wanted to do was have that tapered. But that's the thing. You're in prototyping. It is just it's an iterative process, and it's just one step after the other, just like footsteps. And that's the way you've got to go with this. Don't change too many variables at the same time, because it could cost you a fortune by doing that. Change one little thing at a time, but get your foundations right. That's key, and that's why you have your concept side of things. Okay, so because we didn't like the sides of it, back to the drawing board, so you'll end up getting your CAD drawings and so on to design things up. And of course, this is a fully rendered version of the finished result. Moving on, what you'll see here, of course, is the tapered sides to it. Less play in here with the hole that the valve can move around. And of course, you can see here the neck, which connects to our hose connector. Of course, with most prototyping, what you'll find is you will get 5 prototypes to take away with you, and you can use those for heat tests, cold tests, additional pressure tests and so on and so forth. Every product is different, but you will have your usual set tests, and people like Leardon's or whoever it is you choose to use will actually guide you in that way. But generally, this is what will happen. You'll get some prototypes sent across to you to go and test. The next thing, of course, was design. We had already spoken to the design company. I'll cover that in a second, but we were able to get on what's known as pad printing in place. And this was it. This was the finished result. Now, as much as you have your product, you need to get your message across. And as you saw in the last presentation, your packaging and getting across. By the way, very good video, guys. So what we did was another Northern Ireland course twinned with Queen's University, which is their DDP, their Design Development Programme. What it did was it gave us our name, Floe, following the flow of the water, and they wanted to put in a Scandinavian feel to it. It gave us a company name, Apt Innovations, so that we could bring other products in that we could, for the future. And of course, it gave us our tagline at the bottom here, another Apt Innovation. What it also did was it gave us, what it also did is give us our packaging. As you can see here, we tried to be green. I'll talk about that in a wee second. But it has the instructions inside, and obviously, it gets the message out to the customer. But as you'll see in a second, there was a change to that. Okay, so next, what they did was the design program was able to give us a web layout. It gave us our voice here, and what we were able to do was give our customers info. Bear in mind that our customer base on any type of property is generally going to be between 40 and, say, 75. So it's going to be an older type generation. And obviously sometimes technical products, obviously might go over their heads. So you need to be able to educate the market as much as you possibly can. And that's imperative. You can have a great product, but if you can't convey that to your customers, you're in a bit of bother. What we did was we concentrated very much. We found that video demonstrations on the website was crucial because people were able to sit and get a cup of tea and get their notebook and so on and write down notes. And it just, rather than text, it just explains it. If I could give you anything, it's get into video in some shape or form, because it really is the way forward, and it's not costly, and you'll see in 1 second. We were able to put in there customer testimonials from like-minded people, both on video and on written form, and indeed reviews from magazines and so on. We have our online shop, so we sell to the end user as well as selling to distributors. But we also, on this website, even no matter where they buy it from, that they can come to the website. It's written there on the packaging. If you have any problems, come to us and email us and let us know, and we'll try to help you out. Again, another crucial factor. Okay, so this is sort of the list of products that we've created. You'll see that they all have one thing in common. They all have Floe involved there, but they're for different applications. We have now 5 products for the UK, sold to 150 companies. And now we have 4 Scandinavian countries and 4 European countries, to which we have here our Italian and our German version. So there's a lot of emphasis put into the likes of translation and so on. So you need to consider that too. But again, there are programs for that, such as the translation service down at INI, and there are programs to be able to help you with that. Okay, so as with getting involved in many projects, what is it to expect if this is a new journey for you? It's rewarding, but it's not easy. And I'll just take you through what to expect, really. You can expect plenty of this, late nights, sitting at the computer, and this is where I seem to spend a lot of my time, both with design and keeping in contact. I could be talking with America late in the evening, and then first thing in the morning talking to China. So who's ahead of us in time? So you spend a lot of time at the computer. So make sure you've got your own place that you can work if you are starting from home. Try not to be one of the companies that says, right, okay, I've got this great idea. Let's get premises. Then we'll spend another 5 grand or 10 grand on computer equipment, and we'll buy this and buy that and buy the other, and then just realize where's our customers? Or have we built the right product? Because at the end, unless you've got your foundation correct, at the very end of that product, if you haven't built the product that satisfies the needs, remember, listen to the customer. If you haven't satisfied that need, you've got to go right back to the start. So get it right at the start. Listen to your customers, get a firm bed foundation, and start small steps. Start from home, for example. All hands to the pump. This is actually in our kitchen. As you can see, we've got a couple of people in helping us out. So, getting all of our components together. This is a DVD duplicator because we put DVDs out with everything now that we do. Now, do you remember I said about this room? Very pretty and all that. How does this look? So, this is what can happen. And this is what I would call, being a tipping point, really. It's time now to get into premises, I think, for ourselves. We're in our second year, so it's time to do that. But the rewards are great. This is what it looks like out the back, getting your pallets ready, getting them shipped to wherever it is, the UK, or of course, getting them across to the rest of Europe and Scandinavia. If you're lucky, and we certainly were, we won last year, after 7 months of business, we won Practical Caravans Caravan Accessory of the Year award, which is brilliant, because it just sets you on another level. But remember your marketing again. Always keep that next product up your sleeve. And this is one that we're currently working with Learning with, and indeed eSynergy, another organisation I see here today. We're able to help us get our concept prototype together, and then we're going to take that further with the R&D product, or R&D program through ANI in the new year. So as with any journey, you're going to need a kit list. These are just a few things that I can suggest to you. 2 things, you're going to be probably talking to people in various countries of the world. So if I can recommend things like Skype and Vonage. I don't know if you've come across Vonage. It's just having a phone, it plugs into your modem, just a typical cordless phone. What it does is for $8.99 a month, you can talk to whoever you want around the world. And the actual reception on it is excellent. And of course Skype, so that you can show suppliers, customers and so on, that you can show them your product. Absolutely essential. Other things that I would recommend, get yourself 2 monitors. As you can see, you can extend your screen. You're going to be busy. You'll have one program running with emails and another working with something else, and it just makes life an awful lot easier with you. Now, video, as I said to you, does not have to be expensive. You don't have to buy production style cameras and so on. This you could buy on eBay. I checked it out. It's a high definition camera. It's 150 quid. It's a couple of years old. You stick that together with a Bluetooth mic, you don't get that distance sort of sound. What you get is perfect clarity of voice, and it's for a very, very low budget. And of course, if you don't like talking to a camera and you don't know what to say, for $100, 60 quid say, including delivery from America. Admittedly, you have to have an iPad, to be fair. You can use this little teleprompter here. And I can tell you where we got this sort of stuff. This was on eBay. You put your camera in the back, shoots through, there's a big hood over it, and you can read what you want to say. Get into video. Honestly, it's the way forward. Okay, so just to wrap things up here. Okay, I want to cover just a few of the do nots. First of all, don't think that your idea is going to be perfect. Get something sold. So many people sit and they have a product and they think, no, but it has to look like this and it must do that and so on and so forth. And they procrastinate on the fact that it has to be perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. We started off with this product over here, as you can see, and we thought that this was great, but when we went out to shops and we looked at it, and the damp air had got to it, it curled up, we thought we were being green, it was rubbish. It just didn't work out at all, so we scrapped it. And just like our other kits that we knew were selling well, we went back to using the PET plastic. And of course, one thing that really sold our kit was these DVDs. Now I'll tell you here and now, they're 20 pence to make and put into a box, but there's a perceived value. Is it $4.99, $7.99, $9.99? It's, who knows? But there is a perceived value for very, very little. So this is what we ended up with. So the point is, sell something. I think it was mentioned earlier on as well. Sell something. Don't do this. If you think that this is just going to happen on its own, forget about it. It's not. You need to be on the ball. You need to be continually striving forward. Otherwise, to be honest with you, save your money. And I don't mean to be, kind of rude that way. But at the end of the day, these guys will help you, various programs and prototyping companies and so on, will help you, and they will do loads for you, but you have to keep it moving. You have to be the one. It's called driving the bus. You're the bus driver. Okay, be careful, the whole east versus west, can I get local products? You can be very tempted by buying things across the water in the likes of China and so on. We have a couple of suppliers in China, some of which, and some Taiwan in fact. If you have someone on the ground, which we have in Taiwan, through Learning actually, that has worked out very, very well. But our Chinese contacts, things get wrong, they change particular things. We ordered in, for a small company, 11,000 components, and they changed the mould and didn't tell us, and it wouldn't fit our product. So we ended up with a few pallets of goods. Now, to be fair, they replaced them, but nonetheless, things like that will happen. You will pay much less, but it's a trade-off. You've got to consider shipping. And of course, if you need something in a hurry, how many do you need? Do you ship it in by boat, which takes 8 weeks, or do you fly it in? Don't use FedEx Priority, use FedEx Economy, or use international air freight, which is actually cheaper again, if you do need to bring things in. Okay, what are the do's? Well, like I say, keep your parts to a minimum as possible. Few parts means it's cheaper or more inexpensive, but keep it simple. Keep the whole thing very, very simple, and keep something that sells, that gives you good margins. The more complicated you get, the more problems you have with supplier issues, and of course you'll lose in your margins and so on. Okay. Get in touch with these people. Invest Northern Ireland, WestBIC, NORIBIC, iFactory, and don't forget your local councils. They're a wealth of help as well through their economic development, and indeed they have many of their own programmes that you can get in touch with. Keep in touch in your own industry with, and just basically try and scrounge as much information as you can from the accrediting bodies, the likes of the Water Regulations Advisory Scheme for us, National Caravan Council, caravan clubs and so on. These guys will do reviews, they'll test your kit and so on and so forth, but really keep in these guys' pockets. It's really worthwhile. Okay, choose very wisely on your partners, also your suppliers and your customers, as I mentioned before, the east versus west thing. Customers, if you need to get them checked out financially and so on, do that, but be very careful of suppliers, particularly when you're investing in moulding. And you actually have to buy and create an injection moulded tool. You're kind of drawn in there, and you're stuck with that company. If you go to another company, that mould may not fit in their machine, so you're kind of stuck that way. So be careful. Just ask around. I'm sure they deal with other people in the UK that you could speak to, or other places in the world. But just like I say, take time and do your homework on your customers, on your suppliers and so on, and do your homework on your customers, because you're going to be working with distributors, and you want to see, are these guys getting the best penetration in the market? Is this a good strategic move? You don't want a million distributors in the same place, because it will only dilute your prices. So you want to be strategic in the way that you pick up your customers. There's 5 in the UK, the top 2. We started with one of those top 2 distributors last year. This year we have 2, and that's it. That's all we're going. We're not giving it to 5. We would consider that to be healthy competition, and they have the biggest coverage throughout the whole of the UK. And of course, we're duplicating that throughout the rest of Europe, etc. Stay in touch with the press. You may think that you're going with your cap in your hand and you're asking for somebody to give you some sort of publicity. I'm telling you, these people are falling over themselves to give you as much publicity as you can. They will, like I say, they will run reviews on your kit and so on, and if it works and it stands up, they will give you roaring reviews. This did wonders for us last year, and a lot of it didn't cost us a penny. So remember, journalists are starved for new information. If you can get a press release put together by somebody, that's even better, because you can really just cover the whole marketplace. But get it out everywhere. Anybody that will listen. That includes radio and so on and so forth. I found myself at 7 o'clock in the morning in the offices of Radio Ulster talking about it, and you would be so surprised how many people actually heard the programme at 7 o'clock in the morning. So stick with them. If you have to, advertise. This with the likes of the big caravan, for example, and I refer to caravans But it's not exhaustive of that, you know, because we deal with, you know, this can be used for houses and various types of properties. Landlords can use it when kids go off from leaving a house vacant over Christmas, for example. Offices can use it. Remember, it was a factory that lost 3 million gallons or litres of water a couple of years ago when we had that water shortage. So, I mean, people can drain down before they leave a particular premises. But if you need to advertise, and make sure you pick your area to advertise very, very carefully. It can be expensive, but if we can get somewhere around 350 to 400% return on one particular ad in our chosen magazine. Okay, so wrapping up, also persuade your distributors. Get it on the front face. This is in Italy when we were at their show, but you may just see here our little product is on the front page of their quarterly supplement that they give out. Our year, this year, has been to get into those companies, but to get into their catalogues, and hopefully that will pay the dividends next year. But like I say, they have a quarterly little insert, and we got our product on the front page. If I go back to the last advert where you saw the motorhome sitting, do you recognise it up here in the top left-hand corner? So they use that as well. That's actually a motorhome in the snow in Moira, believe it or not. But as you can see, make sure they've got plenty of them. Okay, it's not all about work. And this thing is a journey, and it's going to take over your life. You will need this, more than likely. They say, I haven't good authority from my doctor that 2 glasses of wine does relieve anxiety, because things do get pretty stressful. I don't know that you meant this size of glass though, but this is not a brilliant picture. I just want one of these glasses now. Okay, I'm not saying that you have to eat budgie food or rabbit food, but don't miss your meals. You're going to be busy, you're going to be hectic, and you will eat on the hoof, as they say. Make sure if you have family, you pick a time and that you sit down and you eat with family, because this thing, you all of a sudden disappear into your own little bubble. And it's very important, as Rory and Anita were saying earlier. I mean, they have their own family, and it's about that sharing of time. Quit at a certain time. You might have to do late nights, but at the end of the day, try and keep that normality behind there. Keep getting exercise. My thing is hiking. This was doing, and set yourself goals, because if you just go out to do something, you'll never do it. But if you need to build up to something, this was doing the Mourne Mountain Challenge, the 26 miles across the Mournes. But you need to set goals to work towards. Again, another one, just this was climbing Ben Nevis earlier on in the year. Make the best of the time with friends and family. Stay in touch with them, because it's very, very easy to let go. But most of all, just have fun doing this. But remember, again, listen. Listen to everyone, most of all. Some of the information you'll find will be useful, and some you'll find will not. I'll just leave you with this one. Just to see. This is at my folks' house. It's all about getting the family involved. This is actually an orange squeezer with the cup took off for the orange.
Tell Daddy what you're doing.
So, please don't tell social services. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a great audience. Thank you very much. We'll be at the first stand out there, the one facing the bar, actually. So we're going to do some questions and answers. Just like to thank everybody for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.